All right, good morning. We're going to do the unit circle in very small baby steps here. This is your first intro to the unit circle, and I want to quickly show you what that looks like. So if I fade this off, and I might have to do some zooming around here a little bit, but this is the unit circle. It is something that pre-calculus students definitely need to have, not necessarily memorize, but know how to fill all of those blanks in. And we're going to start in the upper right quadrant right now. So, okay, let me get this back off there and this back on. We're going to start with the first angle in that unit circle. And let me show you that one more time, just so that you know. Sorry to go back and forth here. We're going to start with this angle right here. Okay, that angle. And that angle happens to be 30 degrees. So on the worksheet that you have that we're working through, we're going to be dealing with this angle right there. All right, so in the unit circle, the one thing you have to know is that the radius of this circle is 1 unit long. So we have a circle that comes down through here like this. So this would touch the edge of that circle. Okay, like something like that. All right. What we want to find is the coordinates of this red dot right there, where it hits the edge of that circle. So we need to find the xy coordinate of that point if this is 1. Well, this has to do a lot with basic algebra, and I'll just give you a crash course in that real fast. If we have an xy axis, okay, just an xy axis, and we have a point, let's say here. Okay, the coordinate of that point would be 3, 2. 3, 2. It is over 3 units long. Okay, so that's 3 units long there. And it's up 2 units. So the coordinate of this point, of course, is x, y. So the coordinate of this point is x, y, 3, 2. That's how points work. So this follows suit on that because, as you can see on the unit circle, there's an xy axis right there in the middle of it. We need to figure out what this x coordinate and y coordinate is here. Well, we don't know if this is 1, if this radius here, this hypotenuse, is equal to 1, we don't know what these two are. We don't know how long this is, and we definitely don't know how long that is. All right, so let's learn how to figure that out. All right, it involves trigonometry, of course. You knew I was going there with this. So here's how you work that. Let's do the x value first. From this 30-degree angle, this is the adjacent side. This is the hypotenuse. So if I want to use this 1 in there, the cosine of 30 degrees equals x over 1. This is adjacent over hypotenuse. I think you can all see that. I mean, we've been doing this for a while now, and that's true. Now, we also know that this fraction here, x over 1, simplifies. Okay, that simplifies to just x. So this x value is the cosine of 30. All right, so let me just, I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but this x value is the cosine of 30. And in fact, whatever angle you have there, it is the cosine of that angle. And I will more on that later, but let's look at the y now. If I wanted to figure out the y, that would be from this angle here, would be the opposite side. All right, that's the opposite side and the hypotenuse. The opposite and hypotenuse is the sine. So the sine of 30 degrees equals y over 1, which is equal to y. So this y value is the sine of 30 degrees. And in fact, for any point along this circle, it's the cosine of whatever angle and the sine of whatever angle. That is what these points are. Now, that being said, I want to introduce you to another way to actually calculate these things in a shortcut kind of way. Okay, so let me fade this all off. And I'm going to do this problem, same problem. This is still 1. This is still 1. and this is still 30 degrees. Now, we're still interested in finding the value of that point right there, which means we need to know how long this is and how long this is. All right? Now, I'm going to label these X and Y because this moves in the X-axis and in the Y-axis instead of A and B. A and B. All right, so we're calling this X and Y. There is a rule out there that says this. The side opposite the 30-degree angle, or any 30-degree angle, equals half of the hypotenuse. It equals half of the hypotenuse. So if the side opposite the 30 is half as long as the hypotenuse, then what would y equal? What's half of 1? 0.5, which is 1/2. We're going to call this 1/2. Now, if we have, that's just a math fact. You can experiment with that, make any 30-degree angle, try to solve that. Make your hypotenuse anything. If this was, say, 14 units long, the hypotenuse was 14, this would be 7. That works every time. Now, how do you find this? Well, if we're going to do the Pythagorean theorem on this, this would be x squared plus 1/2 squared equals 1 squared. So there's going to be a whole lot of this today, a lot of this Pythagorean theorem stuff. So this simplifies. Now usually this is a squared plus b squared is c squared. It's the same thing. C squared is my hypotenuse, and that's 1. This is going to be x squared plus, now 1/2 times itself is 1/4. 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4, equals 1 times 1, which is 1. Now let's solve for x. Okay, so we're going to subtract 1/4. We're going to subtract x squared equals 1 minus 1/4, which is 3/4. 3/4. Now, how do I solve for x? That's right, you square root it. You square root both sides. So the square root of x squared is, of course, x, which is what we want. And then the square root of a fraction, if you have the top and the bottom under the radical symbol, that's just radical 3 over radical 4. And you individually do each one. Now, radical 3 doesn't simplify. Radical 4 becomes what? 2. So this length right here is radical 3 over 2. Which means we can now put in the xy value of this point, which is x. Remember, this goes x, y, and that's radical 3 over 2, and the y value, I'll put it in a different color, will be 1/2. So as far as the big picture here, and it is a big picture, we just got this answer right here. Okay, that answer right there is what we just calculated. Now you're going to have to go all the way around the circle, all right? But this answer is equal to several of these blanks, all right? And they kind of are the same. And you'll see that later on. And this video is running long, but that's the basic idea of that. And I will make another one later on today for the 45, okay, and how to do that. I will talk to you later.